Next up is the Philip Mitchell, that is right, Alumni Service Award. This award is won by two individuals this year, one of whom is here, Bob Buday. Bob Buday and his Penn State graduate pal, Will Guthlein, took on a monumental task of helping to figure out how 50, including the Daily Collegian, 50 collegiate news organizations that are also 501c3 organizations can be thriving, financially viable organizations in a very changing, interesting, dynamic, challenged space in 2025. They did a lot of research, they did a lot of phone calls, they did a lot of data analytics, and they figured out how not only the Daily Collegian, but others can thrive in this environment and create the space in between student and professional journalist. And Bill and Bob also have a bit of a vision, which I think we are totally on board with, that the Daily Collegian can be the first and best in class for all other collegiate news organizations to look to for how to be a thriving business in this space. So if you would please welcome Bob Buday to the stage.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, rest of the Penn State Alumni Association, for recognizing an initiative, an effort that at least 12 people, including myself, are responsible for. And that is, if you've heard the term, has anybody heard the term news desert as it applies to local communities and the loss of their newspapers? Well, this topic of college newspapers was a research desert. There had been no research on the financial state of college newspapers. And we discovered that 50 college newspapers are, as Susan said, 501c3s, which means you can get their data online, right? You can, and we manually collected more than 7,000 pieces of data from the year 2000 to the most recent fiscal year, 50 times 23 years times 8 pieces of data in each one of these IRS 990 forms for their annual report. So we began through this research to see the trends. So before I forget, I just also need to thank the Daily Collegian Alumni Group, which is probably one of your most rabid alumni groups. So the Daily Collegian Alumni Group came to us in 2023. The Daily Collegian was at the risk of losing university funding. It lost that direct university funding. It has gotten some back through student activity fees. But the alumni interest group, came to us and said, what can you guys are business people, right? You worked here 50 years ago. It's where I met my dear wife, roughly 51 years, 26 days, 3 hours, and 32 seconds ago. That's where we met, roughly. And what can you guys do to help us, with these kids, these students, turn around the Collegian? And they're not listening to us. The Alumni Interest Group said, they're not listening to us because we're 60 years old, 70 years old. Well, I just turned 70, so they're not going to listen to me, especially since I left the news industry 37 years before. So I said, well, we need to do some best practice research. Right? That means you interview a bunch of organizations, and I've done a couple dozen studies to this effect, mostly of Fortune 500 companies. We said, we're going to interview a whole bunch of college news organizations. We're going to collect the data from these 50, and we'll compare the best against the worst, or the best against the rest, to make it more palatable to the rest who need to be interviewed. So what we found was astonishing. The decline in revenue of college newspapers is a very similar slope down to local newspaper advertising revenue growth and total revenue, revenue decline. So we said, maybe the kids will listen to data, right? And best practices. They're not going to listen to us because we've been out of the news business too long. Maybe they'll listen to a piece of research about what their peers at these 49 other college news orgs are doing. So that's what happened. We finished the study in the spring of 2024, presented it at We Are Weekend in June of 2024, and the Collegian is now starting to adopt some of the practices of this study. And so are a bunch of other college news organizations. A friend of mine who was an editor at the Drexel Daily Triangle said, "We love that study. You know, we have had to prop up the Drexel Triangle because it stopped publication 2 years ago, and now the alumni are kind of going to the rescue, financial rescue of that college paper." So those kind of things are happening at many college newspapers in this country. And college newspapers, it's kind of like NCAA athletics. They're the minor leagues for the major leagues, right? For football, basketball, baseball to some extent. College newspapers are the minor leagues for professional media. And if college media fails, then there goes the great professional training ground for professional media. And we need professional media in this country. We need real news. So I don't know how much you wanted to know about that, but most important thing is 51 years, 3 months, 20 days, and now what is it? Years ago, I met my wife at the Daily Collegian. It took, yes, Kathy Buday. It took, and I'm happy to afterwards tell you about this story. It took 22 years to get the first date, even though we were best friends for 3 years at Penn State. And delighted to be able to share this award with Kathy and 10 other Collegianaires and AIG. And hope you read the report. You can find the report. Maybe you guys will give a link. The report is free if you want to learn about the past and current state of college newspapers. Okay? Thank you. All right, thank you.